of baseball for those that never watch. Sounds like most of us. This is a game played by two teams, one out and the other in. The one that's in sends players out one at a time to see if they can get in before they get out. If they get out before they get in, they come in, but it doesn't count. If they get in before they get out, it does count. When the ones out get 3 outs from the ones in before they get in without being out, the team that comes out comes in, and the team in comes out to get those going in out before they get in without being out. When both teams have been in and out 9 times, the game is over. The team with the most in without being out before coming in wins unless the ones in are equal. In which case, the last ones in go out to get the ones in out before they get in without being out. The game will end when each team has the same number of ins out, but one team has more in without being out before coming in. That's your Sunday funny. So we've been doing a series on the book E Squared, which I left my copy down here. Thought I had everything up here. How many of you own this book? Oh, look around. So there's lots of you that own it. I know there's still one in the bookstore. We can always order more. E Squared is 9 simple experiments. They're energy experiments that prove your thoughts create reality. It's based on the principles of physics to prove spiritual principles. And so the first week, we had a principle and a lab sheet, and today you were given a lab sheet, and at the top of that lab sheet, it says the Abracadabra principle. The first week, the principle was the dude abides. We were trying to prove that there is this energy field we call God. And some of you had amazing results. One person won $1,000. The second principle was the Volkswagen Jetta principle, and it was to prove to ourselves that our minds selectively see things, and that when we open up to a wider view, we see more things. And some of us even saw pink cars. Last week's principle was the Albert Einstein principle, and we used 2 coat hangers and a straw to prove our principle. Is anybody willing to come up and demonstrate it? I can't do it holding a mic. Oh my God, come on up, Leanne. Did you do it at home?
I tried it here because I wasn't able to find 2 coat hangers.
You weren't able to find 2 coat hangers. My, how times have changed. So in case you weren't here, I'm going to give her full and complete instructions, even though she knows how to do it. She's going to take 1 coat hanger in each hand, and she's going to hold it like this, lightly. She's going to hold the straw so lightly that she has no effect on the coat hanger. It is free to move. And what I want you to do, Leanne, is just center yourself. And you know, I find it's more comfortable if I just let my hands kind of rest my arms. You need to hold your hands up straight, but your arms, you can anchor your arms around your side so that you can just have a little bit less effort to hold them up. And so, I want you to think about that thing that is the worst day of your life. Maybe think about some food that you don't like. I don't know what that might be. Think about that day that you felt sad, that things were unhappy, that you were worried about things not working out. Think about maybe a day that one of your babies was sick. And so for those of you out there, I should have had her turn, but the coat hangers have moved. And so now, Leanna, I want you to think about something that you really like. I don't know, do you like chocolate? If you like chocolate, just keep thinking about chocolate. Think about your little girl and your little boy. Think about how happy you were when Danny came into your life, how you had prayed for him, and that was the best thing that had ever happened to you. Think about chocolate. Think about all the good things in your life. Think how you feel that day when the house is clean. There's nothing else to do, and the kids are all quiet and going to sleep. Now, do you get it? I knew I could hit upon something. Thank you for being a good sport. I showed this to Hunter and Gabriel this morning, and Gabriel said, "Witchcraft." The lesson we were teaching was that our thoughts and our feelings have an effect on the field of potential. And so while that might look like a parlor trick, if you find 2 coat hangers, or go to the cleaners and ask them for 2, or just come play with them after service, it is amazing how that works. And there's a reason that we're doing these experiments, because the experiments build faith. They teach us for ourselves, not just that what we know in our head, so that it becomes something of our memory and our cellular memory and our cellular knowing. So we're doing the experiment so that we can have our own personal experience of physics, of God, all one and the same. This week's principle is the Abracadabra principle. If you know what you want, you can have it. I'm going to read to you from the book Illusions. I used to own this book. In the Great Purge, I gave it away, but now I have it electronically. This is a conversation between 2 people. To bring anything into your life, imagine that it's already there. Like what? Like my lovely lady? Anything, not your lady, something small at first. I'm supposed to practice now? Yes. Okay, a blue feather. He looked at me blankly. Richard, a blue feather? You said anything, not a lady, something little. He shrugged. Fine, a blue feather. Imagine the feather, visualize it, every line and edge of it, the tip, V-splits where it's torn, fluff around the quill, just for a minute. Visualize. And then let it go. I closed my eyes for a minute and saw an image in my mind, 5 inches long, iridescent blue to silver at the edges, a bright, clear feather floating there in the dark. Surround it in golden light if you want. That's a healing thing to make it real, but it works in magnetizing too. I surrounded my feather in gold glow. Okay. That's it. You can open your eyes now. I opened my eyes. Where's my feather? If you had it clear in your thought, it is even this moment barreling down on you like a Mack truck. My feather like a Mack truck? Figuratively, Richard. All that afternoon I looked for a feather to appear, and it didn't. And it was evening, dinner time, over a hot turkey sandwich that I saw it. A picture in small print on the carton of milk, packaged for Scott Dairies by Blue Feather Farms, Bryan, Ohio. Don, my feather. He looked and shrugged his shoulders. I thought you wanted the actual feather. Well, any feather for openers, don't you think? Did you see just the feather all alone, or were you holding the feather in your hand? All alone. Well, that explains it. If you want to be with what you're magnetizing, you have to put yourself in the picture too. Sorry, I didn't say that. A spooky, strange feeling. It worked. I had consciously magnetized my first thing. Today a feather, I said. Tomorrow, the world. Something that the author talks about in the book is a metaphor. And she says that magnetizing the blue feather is just like walking from Biloxi to New Orleans. If you got a map and you start walking, you can get from Biloxi to New Orleans, from Palm Bay to Miami, from Melbourne to New York City, from here to there. I happen to love Biloxi. I hated to use it from Biloxi to New Orleans, but I do love New Orleans better. But it's a metaphor. Biloxi can be anything. It can be your 15-year-old vehicle. It can be a job that you hate. It can be being alone on the weekends. And New Orleans, it can be a Jaguar. It can be a high-paying job that really appreciates your greatest strengths. It can be the love of your life that you spend time with. How do you get there? How do you get from Biloxi to New Orleans? You get there by focusing on New Orleans. You quit thinking about Biloxi and you walk toward New Orleans. You have to remember in every moment that you're heading to New Orleans. You have to remember in every moment that you're heading toward the Jaguar. In every moment you're heading toward the love of your life. In every moment you're heading to that high-paying job that appreciates all of your strengths. in the book, she says, remember every moment you are either heading toward New Orleans or you're doubling back to Biloxi. Every thought is a step in one direction. Our thoughts are prayers. Every thought is a prayer. Every thought is a step in one direction. You going to New Orleans, or are you going to go back to Biloxi? In Prosperity Plus 1 and Prosperity Plus 2, we've learned a principle, and that is that when we can see something and feel it and have energy and excitement and passion about it, we move there quickly, with more ease. The author makes this statement, and I've played with this statement in my mind all week. She said, there's no real physical work involved. It's all about training your mind. And I hadn't quite gotten to where I totally believe that. I believe sometimes there's some physical work. Because if I'm walking to New Orleans, I got to take a step. That's pretty physical work. If I want a new job, I have to fill out my resume, and that's a physical job. So I'm playing with that. But I really understand that every thought I have is either a step toward my goal or a step away from my goal. She says in the book that the universe is our mail order catalog just waiting for us to select what we want. She tells a story about her friend Don. Don played the guitar, and he had a desire. He had a desire for a Martin, was that it? A Martin guitar. And they cost $1,100 or more, but he wanted one. But he had a family and 4 or 5 little children, and he didn't know how he was going to get one. But he started focusing and thinking and believing that he was going to have a Martin guitar. And one day his mother called him and said, your dad went to a garage sale and picked up an old guitar, and it's a little smaller than most. I thought maybe your daughter Daisy might like to play with it. He went to pick it up. It was a 1943 Martin guitar, number 28 out of 100. Its value was $20,000, and his dad bought it for $5,000. He got the idea. He pictured a Martin guitar, and he left it up. He just pictured, I'm going to have one of those one of these days. And he didn't spend all that much time thinking about why he wasn't going to get one. And it materialized for him, and that's what you and I need to learn. See, that's what Jesus did. He didn't have doubt. He had belief. When he wanted that water turned into wine, no unbelief, and it turned into wine. Bringing Lazarus back from the dead, no doubt, no unbelief. He was 100% focused, laser sure on what his possibilities were. That's how he walked on water. And this week, if you read the daily words, I think it was Tuesday was about when he was in the ship and the storm came up and the disciples woke him up, and it says he rebuked the storm. Metaphorically, what you and I have to do is rebuke the storm of unbelief. We're doing this experiment today, and the experiment asks us to ask for something in 48 hours, and it's to prove that you can do it. Our reason for doing it is not about stuff. You get it? We don't care about stuff. What we care about is being able to manifest the world that we want. But we have to prove to ourselves how this stuff works and that we can work it. Every single thought we have affects the field of potential. I bet every time, I bet 3 times a year I say this, that you and I have 60,000 thoughts a day. And scientists estimate, and God only knows how they do that 59,000 of those thoughts are things we've already been thinking. That in any one day we only have 1,000, if that many, new thoughts. Little river of thoughts that just run on through. And our thoughts are bouncing here and there. I believe that the reason that Jesus could do the things he could do is his thoughts didn't bounce from here to there. He was focused. 100% of the time, he believed he could do what he could do. Another sentence in the book, the sentence that affected me, one sentence was, every thought is a step forward or a step back. A step in one direction or the other. Second sentence that is the same intention said, every thought produces an effect on some level. Every thought is productive at some level of being. Every thought we have or have ever had is productive on some level of being. And so if we want to know what we've been thinking, all we have to do is look around at the landscape of our life. So instead of using our 60,000 thoughts a day constructively, Pam says that there are a number of things that we do that we might want to become aware of. One of those is that we spend them on meaningless things. The evening news, soap operas, computer games, Beth. Every day you and I are exposed to hundreds and hundreds of ads. And every ad is meant to give you a picture of a life that's different from what you have and make you feel dissatisfied. So they're out there trying to give you those unproductive thoughts. And then there's other people's thoughts. We're affected by other people's thoughts, sometimes aloud, thoughts they think and say out loud, and sometimes some they just think and give you the look. And then there are the thoughts that come from your own head. I made a list of them. I don't want to leave anybody out. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. I have no talent. I don't deserve it. I can't do it. It's too hard. Anybody own any of those thoughts? Yeah. And a very good part of those 59,000 old thoughts that we have every day. Jesus told us to get our intentions clear and focused. He said, ask and it will be given. Now in Aramaic, ask had a little different meaning than Mother, may I? The meaning was claim, demand, know, accept, believe. You see the difference? We're not asking, we're claiming. I'll close with one last story, and it's a story about Al Unser. Anybody remember Al Unser? He won the Indianapolis 500 3 times, and then his sponsors decided he was too old. They replaced him. Thing is, Al Unser didn't believe that he was too old to win the Indy 500. He knew that he could do it. He didn't have any doubt about it. During practice, one of the new team, Bobby Angayas, is that right? Got injured. And so they put Al Unser in the car they did not expect to win, a used race car. Martin Cotsworth was the name of the car, but that didn't mean anything to me. So it was in the race. And they did not expect for him to be able to win. After all, he was 20th on the pole. But that didn't faze Al Unser. He knew that he could win the Indianapolis 500. And he drove and he raced. And in lap 183, he was head of the pack. And he won the Indy 500 for the 4th time. Because he had no doubt. He was clear and he was sure. This week we have an experiment. It's called the, I don't have it. Does anybody have the Abracadabra principle? Thank you.
The principle?
No, this lab sheet.
Okay.
The Abracadabra principle. The theory is that whatever you focus on expands. And the question is, can I really pull out of thin air simply by thinking it about them? Can I pull things out of thin air? Hypothesis. By making the following intention and focusing on its outcome, I can draw it into my life and my intention. So you make an intention for what you're going to draw into your life. The approach. I have scanned over the big catalog called the world, and for the sake of this experiment have decided what I intend to manifest in the next 48 hours. I will focus on it with all my being, and I will remember what Abraham Hicks likes to say, it's as easy to manifest a castle as a button. You put down the date, and the time, and you set the deadline, 48 hours, and see what happens. So I did the experiment. I signed up for a class 2 or 3 months ago called Church Marketing, because I haven't ever done any of that. Hadn't been all that interested in doing that. But recognizing that going from 4,000 to 16,000 square feet, we might need to do a little marketing. I signed up for the class. Started Thursday morning. I tried to convince every other minister I knew to go with me, because I felt like I was Daniel going into the lion's den, because it's put on by pretty fundamental churches. So Thursday morning, I'm thinking about our experiment. And I said, in the next 48 hours, I want something to happen so that I know that this was the right thing for me to do. That's not very specific. And so I'm sitting there waiting. And the person presenting is talking about how he has a coaching network, and that he goes out and looks at everybody's website when they apply to be in this coaching network. And he said, because sometimes people that aren't real Christians try to get in. He's talking about me. But I got an idea. I learned something that's going to be great. I learned that for 7.5 cents, you can get something put in a person's mailbox if you're a nonprofit. And you don't even have to put an address label on it. You just give that post office enough for every household, and they put it in at 7.5 cents. Now, 7.5 cents is for one. 10 is 75 cents. 100 is $7.50. 1,000 is, $10,750. Now, I remember when we mailed out newsletters that mailing out 600 was $400 or $500. Will we make a splash? Yes. I felt like I got my money's worth that I paid for the seminar. But I'm still waiting. And in the waiting, on a break, I struck up a conversation with a Baptist minister from Clinton, Missouri. And I asked him, I said, so if I were going to do any other piece that Nelson offers, what would it be? And he said, well, tell me what you need to do. And I said, well, our church is moving. We're moving from a building with 4,000 square feet to a building with 16,000 square feet, from no mortgage to a big mortgage. I said, I'm going to have several services, and I'm going to have to fill the seats. And he said, well, you need the assimilation. listening next, he said, "But let me pray for you." And this Baptist minister put his hand on my shoulder and he prayed. He didn't use exactly the same language that you and I might use, but he said, "God, let this church thrive. Let people that have never heard of it find out about it. Let this be the most joyous move." I pray that in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Now, I don't know about you, but I was pretty convinced. And so, that doubt comes up. That doubt comes up. And so then I said, well, maybe that wasn't specific enough. And so yesterday I said, "God, let me and somebody else at Unity of Melbourne win something on the lottery. I'm waiting to hear from one of you." I got a free ticket. Next time I'll be a little more specific. Instead of 2 numbers, next time I'm going for 3 numbers. Whatever we want, whatever we focus on, every thought is a step. Think about that this week. Thank you.